For years, the world has watched the same story unfold across the Middle East. The same images, the same narratives, the same conclusions. But something has changed. And, well, it's not small. For the first time in decades, the sense of absolute security inside Israel is being shaken in a way that feels unfamiliar, even unsettling. This is not a single strike, not a symbolic retaliation. This is wave after wave, missiles, drones, pressure without pause. Cities like Tel Aviv and Beersheba are no longer just names in headlines. They are places where sirens dictate life, where nights are spent underground, and where uncertainty has become routine. And here's what makes this moment different from everything that came before. Much of what is happening is not being fully seen. Before we break this down, take a second to support the channel. Like the video, share it with someone who follows global affairs, drop your perspective in the comments, and subscribe if you want more deep, unfiltered geopolitical analysis. This isn't surface-level content. This is where we connect the dots others leave out. What's unfolding right now is not just another escalation. It's a shift in how this conflict is fought and understood. Reports coming out of Israel suggest one of the tightest levels of wartime censorship in recent memory. Journalists have described a situation where impact sites are off-limits, hospitals are sealed from cameras, and even basic documentation is restricted. The war is being experienced but not fully shown. Despite that, fragments are slipping through. Civilian footage shows damaged homes in Rishon LeZion fires, consuming neighborhoods in Holon, and widespread outages in Tel Aviv. These are not isolated incidents. They hint at sustained pressure rather than sporadic attack. So, how did this happen? The answer lies in capability and strategy. You see, Iran has spent decades refining missile technology under sanctions, focusing not just on power but, well, efficiency and volume. Systems like the Sejil ballistic missile have dramatically reduced response windows, challenging defense systems that were originally designed for slower, shorter-range threats. At the same time, heavier systems, such as the Khorramshahr 4, introduce a different layer of risk, capable of delivering massive payloads that can disrupt not just infrastructure, but military logistics. Now, whether every claim of impact is accurate is still debated, but the broader pattern is, honestly, harder to dismiss. This is not about a single breakthrough weapon. It's about sustained pressure, what military analysts call a war of attrition. And that's where things get even more serious. When one side can produce relatively low-cost drones and missiles in large numbers, and the other relies on expensive interception systems, time becomes the deciding factor. The longer this continues, the more strain builds, not just on defences, but on economies, infrastructure and public morale. But, strategy alone doesn't explain intensity. Moments of tragedy often reshape the direction of conflicts, and recent events inside Iran appear to have had exactly that effect. Civilian casualties, especially involving children, have historically transformed public sentiment into something far more unified and uncompromising. Even populations critical of their own governments can rally when faced with external attacks that feel, well, indiscriminate. This is where geopolitics meets human psychology. At the leadership level, the divide is just as complex. Benjamin Netanyahu is widely seen as pursuing long-term strategic objectives, while figures like Donald Trump face domestic pressures tied to economic fallout, including rising global oil prices and instability around key trade routes like the Strait of Hormuz. Allies, in other words, are not always aligned. And then there's history. Because, no major decision in this region happens in a vacuum. For Iran, past examples like the fall of Muammar Gaddafi after disarmament are not just history lessons. They are cautionary tales that shape present-day policy. Trust, once broken at that level, doesn't easily return. So, where does this leave us? In a moment that feels, well, less predictable than previous phases of the conflict, the scale is larger, the tools are more advanced, and the information landscape is more controlled. What we are seeing and what we are not seeing both matter. For those who follow history, this is one of those turning points that will likely be studied for years. Not just because of what happened, but because of how it changed the rules of engagement. And maybe the most important takeaway is this: conflicts are never just about weapons or territory. They are about perception, endurance, and the stories that survive after the dust settles. If this breakdown gave you a clearer perspective, don't stop here. Share this video with someone who wants more than headlines. Drop your thoughts below. How is this conflict being covered where you are? And most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this, because this story is far from over.